Okay. All right. We are live. Let me check on the YouTube. Yes. And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Afterlife Hacktoberfest panel discussion, where we are going to all discuss about the open source and productivity for contributors and like all things about the open sourcing. And yeah, before going deeply into the topic, I wanna come up with the with the introductions, and maybe Emeli, you wanna kick it off these introductions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to take part in this awesome podcast. My name is Emeli Dral. I'm CTO and co-founder at Evidently AI. At Evidently, we do open source one for monitoring and validation for production machine learning models. And we also took part at Hacktoberfest this year and the previous one. It was a wonderful experience for us because we had so many nice contributions. And I believe it's one of the most interesting events in open source world.
That's great, and I think all of us in here love Hacktoberfest and organized Hacktoberfest in the companies. And maybe Bilge, we can continue with you.
Yeah, my name is Bilge. I work at deepset mainly for Haystack as a developer advocate for over a year now. So it means that I am full-time open source employee working with open source. I am based in Istanbul, Turkey. So if you ever been to this city, it's a beautiful one. And as Haystack, we also participated in Hacktoberfest this year. It was our first time, and I am really excited to share our experience about Hacktoberfest later in this stream. So yeah.
Great. And also I'm living in Bursa, so close to Istanbul, 2 hours far away, and maybe in the future we're gonna have a meeting with Bilge in Istanbul.
A
Okay,
real
David.
meeting.
Okay,
I'd love
David.
to join. I love Istanbul. Been there many times.
Cool. It's a lovely city, definitely. And yeah, David, you wanna introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Mary, for having me. Yeah, I'm David. I work as an open source developer advocate at Union.ai, but yeah, I'm also fortunate enough to be a full-time employee working on open source, getting paid to work on with the open source community, mainly the Flyte open source community. And I'm based in Colombia. Yeah, kind of far away from many of you, but yeah, I've been at this company for 10 months now, and yeah, enjoying the ride.
Yeah, that's great. And also I was just participated in the David's workshop about the DevRel in the PyData Global, and I love it. And then I just keep following to David, and his content is precious about the DevRel and Flyte also. And yeah, so the first question is how did you start open sourcing, and like when did you start your open source journey? And maybe David, you wanna kick it off?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I've been thinking about this. Probably as many of us, I started as an open source user. I mean, adopting open source products like Linux, and finding myself 10 times more productive working in the open, working with open technologies. Uh, Probably it was, let's say, like 4 years ago that I started trying to see behind the curtains how open source software is built. And yeah, I joined the Kubernetes community back then. I started contributing to docs, and I found many barriers in the process. Sometimes it looks like the lowest hanging fruit. I mean, just fix a typo in the docs, but but even so, it has some barriers. And probably I can cover this in more detail. So yeah, that was how it started. Then I moved um, to collaborate with other communities. But yeah, that's kind of the story so far.
Yeah, that's great. I think all of the open source developers or like contributors are started with the non-technical contributions and like documentations or like other stuff that low hanging fruits. And yeah. And how about you, Bilge?
I started, apart from being a user of an open source like tool, I started in my previous company. So the story is we had several projects going on at the same time, and I was working as a front end engineer and back at that company. And between those teams, we were sharing some like code pieces, such as like S-Lint configurations or like React UI toolkits. So we were thinking, okay, maybe instead of like keeping this private, let's make it open source. I mean, if we can share it between teams, why don't we share it with all the community? They were some small scale projects. So like I mean, not so many people probably aware of these projects, but it was still a bit exciting for me because every time when I contribute, like open a PR in those projects, it was like, okay, everybody can see this PR, and like I need to make everything perfect in this PR because everybody is gonna check it. So that was my first experience with open source, and starting from that, I think I've never stopped contributing to open source projects. Now, like I'm working with one, so it's amazing.
Yeah, that's great. And like instead of having a competitive mindset, having a collaborative mindset and like sharing with others, building it in public, and like those are great principles to have in in the in uh, in the open source space, definitely. And how about you, Emily?
Well, I'm eager to share. Actually, I also started as David, as a user of open source products, and it was like many, many years ago because I still remember the moment when I just started my career as machine learning engineer. And back then, like 10 years ago or even more, we had to implement so many things ourselves. I mean, things like different machine learning algorithms like random forest or gradient boosting, everything should be like handwritten. And then suddenly here are scikit-learn, very famous Python library for machine learning, and many, many others. And I just remember how the whole field was transformed after such libraries was created, and a lot of people started to add more features, metrics, algorithms. And I believe for machine learning, it was like, wow, so many things. And it was super fast to like create your model, fit, predict, and make this awesome machine learning based services. And I remember myself being so amused because like literally several years ago, I had to implement all those things myself. And it was so like time consuming. And after so those packages, it was like a magic for me. And then, well, I believe that's how I started. And then when I work on my previous work, I used to help release open source libraries. So I took part in the testing of Cat Boost library, which was implemented by my colleague and friend. So I took part in the testing, and I was like amazed by the idea that we can actually share this great tool. And now, yeah, I'm a maintainer of open source library, and I can totally relate to Bilge because I also, at the very, very beginning, I also was so stressful and amazed by each pull request because, like, oh my God, now anybody will see that, and it was quite stressful. But now, after like 2 years almost, it feels amazing because you see that there are a lot of people who actually care about what you're doing and help you with nice APIs, with documentations, testing, and features. It's so good. I believe that's very like common thing for machine learning because you have quite a lot of different open source tools there, and I really like this trend.
Yeah, definitely. And like also it's related to my second question is like what is your favorite thing about the open source, and what are your values and what drives you for open sourcing? And also when we are introducing ourselves, or like when you are talking about how did you start open source journey, you also mentioned the values, but I wanna like emphasize on that. And maybe you wanna start, Emily?
Sure. Well, I really like open source. I believe because I started to use it and I was able to fully feel this power of having that a lot of nice open source tools. And for us, it's very nicely aligned with our company strategy because the biggest value I feel is like sharing the knowledge and sharing the experiences. Because now we live in a global community where I believe knowledge is like the most powerful thing that helps us to develop as a whole, right? And when someone can delegate a lot of time into building a very nice algorithm or maybe very nice tool for visualization or whatever, it's so nice that so many people can actually use it and develop all together. So for me, it's more about unity, about community, about sharing the knowledge and having this privilege to like focus on a very small thing, but polish it to the brilliant state, because you can like use other open source tool to like build other modules, and you are really now able to focus on a very, very small thing, but make it so perfect. So for me, it's like for perfection as well. And yeah, if I can summarize it, I would say sharing, support, community, knowledge, and perfection, because focus is, I believe nowadays, like a very, very, I would say, it's something that's not all of us can afford to have, right? Because there are many different technologies, and if you build any product, you need to think about how to deploy it, how to implement different features, how to support, how to monitor, etc., etc. And now having so many open source things, you can really focus on the main concept of our product, and I think it's priceless. So that's so good that you can actually share different things.
Yeah. That's great. And like also helping to the users, and like, oh, I think open source is all about like taking feature requests of the users and like helping them to achieve their goals with their pipelines, or like with their projects, with their, you know, use cases. And
Yeah.
the main value in the open source, I think, is like helping to other people, and that's great. Yeah. And how about you, David? Like, what is your drive? What's your drives, and what are
Hmm.
your values in the open source that drives you the most about like contributing to open source?
Yeah, it's a great question because the majority of my career I've worked with closed source products with proprietary technology, and only when I joined open source communities and started contributing, I saw the incredible speed of innovation, how rapidly we can either fix problems or create new solutions without paying much attention to yeah, probably financial restrictions or market imposed restrictions. So when I saw that, and I was able to experience this when I was working, when I was part of a working group in the Continuous Delivery Foundation, and it was incredible to me to see folks from different companies, even competitors, collaborating on in a shared artifact. In that case, it was the salsa the salsa standard for supply chain security. It was built by a diverse set of individuals, and it was love at first sight for me. I was like, I don't want to look back anymore. This is how things should be run, and I think that the future should be open. I mean, humans can achieve so much when they collaborate on a shared mission, and they are part of safe and organized community. It's incredible how much human beings can achieve. So much so that sometimes companies struggle to put limits or monetize open source. Is very complicated. When you saw the news, for example, HashiCorp tries to set a different licensing for Terraform, and the community reacts by just forking the project and moving to a foundation. Wow, yeah. So people really care about this. What the community has built. It could get so big that it's even hard to put limits or even reap some economical benefit. But one thing is sure is that many of the innovations that we enjoy today, at least in software engineering, come from open source community. So that's what drives me every day to keep discovering how planting the seeds and a healthy community can reap worldwide benefits.
Yeah, and like I think instead of like taking competitive advantage, open source is all about like sharing what you learned, what are your like how can I describe, like it's all about sharing your advantages to others, because like your drives all are always like helping each other, and as I said, collaborative mindset instead of like competitive. And yeah, and how about your thoughts, Bilge? And I know probably values and like the drives are the same, but I wanna hear hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I agree with David and Emily so far. So, but something that I can add is like my favorite thing about the open source is the community for sure. Like, and it's not a one-way communication. It's not sharing what I know with other people. It's also learning from them, because like I know in our community we have people from different fields, like people like working in a corporate level jobs, or people like working in academia writing papers, and I get to see different perspectives. And sometimes we build something together on our Discord channel. And it's also like every time I go out there, I feel like I am back in college, like building something with my peers. And it always like makes me so happy to learn from these people. And I also get very happy seeing those people are learning something from me. So this is, I would say, my favorite thing about the open source, like being so open to teach and learn.
Yeah. That's great. And uh, I'm also like agreeing all of the all of the things you are saying, all of the values. Yeah, David.
Yeah, there's something I wanted to add on what Bill shared. So yeah, when I joined this company, if you see my title, it says developer advocate. So probably you will imagine someone who's a serial conference speaker and a blog writing
Hmm.
machine. But uh, if I mean, when I joined this community, I found exactly what Bill was mentioning, how much I can learn. It's incredible how much I can learn from spending time with users, probably even answering some of their questions that become more and more complicated with time. And it can be a rabbit hole for sure. And sometimes it's been a rabbit hole. But I became so passionate about how much I'm able to learn from them that I kind of forgot everything else. Uh, I could be labeled as a terrible developer advocate with the traditional metrics in terms of content. In 10 months I probably created a couple of blog posts and only presented a single conference. So yeah, terrible developer advocate or evangelist. But I've learned so much, and I've been able to produce some learning resources for the community that even if I could go back in time, I will do it again. I will spend I will devote my whole time learning from them, getting to know how they use this specific piece of software. And yeah, I think it's growing with the community as much as helping them. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, okay, I want to change topic a little bit about the direction of how ones can start and nurture their open source journey and like start contribution, helping each other, and like even teach to the employees, as you said, because like in the community members, we are learning a lot of things from them. And yeah, maybe you want to kick it off, Bilge, like how one can start their open source journey. And also like I just look at it, Slido, and it's the same question from somebody said about how can I contribute to open source if I am not very good software developer yet.
Okay, I can maybe answer this question first. First of all, people think that contributing to open source is like, it only means that you need to contribute in terms of code. Like, so you need to open a PR on GitHub or on GitLab. Well, from a DevRel perspective, so from a maintainer perspective, this is not the only way to contribute to a project. I mean, there's like documentations, there are tutorials, there are demos. I mean, there are multiple ways of contribution. So you can maybe translate a documentation page. You can fix a typo in the documentation. You can check the README and see if every link in the README file works. I mean, anything you can think of as like that requires a fix can be a contribution. Or you can just go out and talk about that product in a conference or submit a talk about that product, write a blog post. So you don't have to be a very good software engineer to give a talk about that product. So, and this also counts as a contribution. So don't think about like contribution as a technical thing. And so this is like this will be my answer to this question. And as the first thing to contribute to an open source, I would say that like go and find the product that you are using in your daily life, like in your job. Maybe you're a front-end engineer and you are using React. Go and check React. Maybe you are working in the AI field, you are working with large language models, and you want to build you want to build application with those models. Go and check Haystack. I mean, start with what you're interested in and find the product in that area, so it gets easier for you to get familiar with the code base and such. And yeah, that would be my shortest answer.
Yeah, and also when it comes to like contributing, you can share your learning journey, and it's definitely useful for the open source companies, and like writing blog posts, as you said, or like shooting a video about the demo of this project, and even like small video about what did you learn from the community, or like what uh what kind of a projects did you build with around this tool. And yeah, that was great. And how about you, Emily? You want to add something to this conversation?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I want to say that I fully agree, because we do receive quite a lot of contribution related to our documentation, broken links, and very nice tutorial, which is just amazing, because quite often when you are open source maintainer, you don't really understand how all the users use your product. There may be quite a lot of very creative ways how they, for instance, integrate it to different stacks, or maybe how they create something awesome on top of your technology, what you never like get a good image yourself. And it's so nice to like get those pull requests and see what people actually do. It really helps to inspire yourself about new features and maybe some improvements of the product. So I totally agree that you don't really need to be top tier software engineer to make a pull request. Also, I think it's quite nice that GitHub has this very nice label, good first issue. And if you are like in doubt to where to apply your effort, you can filter by this good first issue, or maybe need help sometimes and see maybe you know the answer or can help with these contributions. There are quite a lot of non-technical good first issues. So if you just want to make sure you understand this GitHub mechanics, how to like create a pull request, how to create a branch, etc., I think it's nice point to start and play with that. And well, what I believe is like quite important is to be to know basics of code version systems, because it's like essential value when you do some contribution. And quite a lot of products, especially open source ones, they have very detailed contribution guides. So if you are in doubt and you are not sure like whether you can or cannot to contribute, if you just first go through this contribution guide and see what steps should be accomplished, I believe it will be very like understandable whether you want to contribute. Is it too complicated or not? I think it's like make total sense. And I also want to say that I fully agree with the fact that sometimes you can even like raise a question or maybe raise an issue if you tested something and it's not working, because it's also very valuable contribution. Maintainers and other users will see, and maybe they already have an answer, or they can just upvote your issue because it's also something that happens to them. So I think there are many, many different ways to help to the community. Even go to some existing issue and answer to someone's question is already very, very valuable, because everyone will be able to see that and maybe then reuse your answer. Well, yeah, and I believe that very nice starting point is actually to start using open source. I think it all comes from this point. When you started to use something, you started to like maybe update your packages, see some changes and experience using open source. Maybe try to switch from something proprietary to open source if you feel to it and if it makes sense from the technical point of view, of course, not just for the sake of open source, but like trying to understand how it works. And I believe many users can even contribute from the like process point of view, if I can say so. I mean, maybe contribute something to continuous integration or maybe to documentation of the products, because quite often, if, for instance, you work for a big technical company, you can have very clear vision on how good process looks like, and you might help to the small startup to develop better processes of continuous integration or continuous development, because I believe it's also very important to keep the high quality of the tool. So yeah, there are many, many different ways, and it's always nice to like be creative and be reasonable. And if you feel and see that something can be fixed, you can at least say it, right? And maybe even do it. I think that's it.
And also like when you're starting trying to contribute on the some of the issues, like somebody can help you about like what you're facing, what kind of problems you're having uh when you're trying to contribute. And it's happened to me when I was trying to evidently AI in the Hacktoberfest. And like I was trying to understand the Fisher's exact test like 1 year ago or something like that. and and after that I couldn't figure out how to like add tests for this Fisher exact test function, and like how to create this function, etc. And then there's another community member just uh, helped me on that issue, and like we did create a PR together. And yeah, like if if you're if you're not how can I say, like if you're not believing in yourself, if like you can do this issue, maybe you can take help from the other community members. And I think like all of the maybe not all of the, but there are a lot of community members out there that are like ready to help you for your first PR or like first issue or something like that. And yeah, David, if you want to add something to this question.
Yeah, it
starting
looks like
open source?
Emily and Bilge already said it all, but I will add that yeah, sometimes looking back and how to get started with open source, sometimes it's not that easy, or at least that was my experience because yeah, first contribution, yeah, all the excitement and fear and the fair response from a maintainer, yeah, LGTM, just please rebase and we can merge. So it took me a while to understand what is this person trying to say. What is LGTM? How do I perform a rebase, which is probably some of the most mysterious section in the Git flow. And yeah, certainly, for example, in the Kubernetes community, many folks. I used to be part of the release team, and you can think, yeah, the folks in the release team of a project probably are at the top of their careers, but many of them struggle at the beginning with Git. So there even for fixing a typo in the docs, there is a barrier, and yeah, sometimes for us now on the other side, maintaining an open source project, we need to keep our eyes open and making sure that we are not making assumptions of what folks out there know. But I will say for the question, um, just yeah, you don't need to be an outstanding software developer because yeah, probably there's this wrong idea out there that contributing to open source comes at the end of your career at the when you're at the top, but probably it's at the beginning. It's a great way to get started and get to know people, get to know folks, how do they interact, how software is built. So I will say that you will need to have curiosity, and and don't be afraid to ask questions. Even what you probably consider the most basic thing, you need to do your homework for sure. Try to find answers for yourself. But if after doing your homework you need to ask a question, that's fine. If you receive uh, probably aggressive answers or sarcastic answers, probably that's not the right community to be part of to begin with. But in a healthy community, if you did your homework, you shouldn't receive an RTFM or something like that. You should receive a proper explanation for someone who is willing to contribute. So that's the first thing. And the other thing that I would say is that I'm sure that despite your background, no matter your background, I'm sure you have something that an open source community needs. So I think when I kind of jumped into the supply chain security field, I was kind of new, and when this working group was formed, uh, it was formed by folks with decades of experience and research experience in the field. So I volunteered to kind of facilitate the meetings. Right, they were struggling to coordinate a date and time and a platform to run the meetings. So I volunteered to coordinate this and facilitate the meetings. I was a fly on the wall for many weeks. I was a silent fly on the wall, just hitting the record button, welcoming everyone, and just posting the recording. That's it. But I started learn and then started to contribute. So I'm sure that not even filing a PR, you can contribute to an open source community. Sometimes it's incredible to see how many opportunities are out there to help with open source initiatives, and how few people is available, because yeah, many times we are only focused on PRs and quality PRs and all that stuff. So yeah, there are many ways to get in. There are some barriers. So it's a shared responsibility between the potential contributor and the maintainers to try to lower the barriers. Yes.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. And also, like, okay, there are like barriers for like entering the open source contribution, but also when it comes to open source, like like when it comes to starting, it's always hard to like getting rid of the perfectionism and like imposter syndrome and all those kind of stuff. And like if you are good at with your skill set for open source contribution for this specific issue, or like good first issue, and even though if you're not ready, like just write something on the issue section and like try to start your first contribution. Otherwise, like it's always all about like getting ready and waiting that perfect time to start open source journey. And we all know that there is no perfect time, or like there is no getting ready for these kind of stuff. And yeah, I think like just without being ready, just doing it is always a good advice that I take in from other people and like given to other people. And I think there is another question on the YouTube chat, but maybe after this question, I wanna like go dive deeply into the Hacktoberfest and like the what you did with the communities and in the Hacktoberfest 2023. And yeah, the question is, what is the best open source AI project that doesn't yet exist? What is the best open source AI project that doesn't yet exist? Okay, it's a little bit hard question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
David.
wasn't prepared for this, but yeah, I would say that more recently, and probably you already saw this, uh, in the field of AI, or security for ML models and responsible AI and all this stuff. And we are only taking baby steps in terms of regulations and technical implementation. So the software engineering space is decades forward in terms of trying to build more secure pipelines in terms of securing all the dependencies that, in this case, a model could have. So, interesting, probably not the best, but interesting open source product that I don't see yet is something that could be like the Six Store, but for AI. And Six Store is an open source project that helps you capture all the dependencies, all the packages that you're using in your project and the dependencies, and find vulnerabilities there, and establish also a way to sign in artifacts and establish provenance, and report, hey, what is the exact origin of this package and all that stuff. It's more than just finding vulnerabilities. It's a totally different thing. I see projects popping up in terms of, yeah, we discover your CVs, vulnerabilities in your AI pipeline, which is fine. But I'm talking about really providing provenance and bringing transparency log for AI models. Uh, yeah, I don't see this yet out there.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, Emily.
I just wanted to add to this security point of view because I think it's very relevant. And maybe I'm a little bit biased here because I work in this machine learning observability and monitoring sphere. So, like, yeah, definitely I'm biased here. But I believe when it comes to machine learning, especially AI, there are quite a lot of like ethical questions which are not covered yet. Because quite often we use these models to help us with some automation of decision making, right? And there it's not always that obvious how to make sure that all our recommendations or predictions or decisions are fair from many different points of view. And as a data scientist, as a statistician, I know that in many cases, I would even say mostly when we train our algorithms, we fully rely on the historical data, and that's not always a good example of how we would like to behave in future, because there are so many shifts in historical data in our past, and we cannot always guarantee that even if we did everything technically correctly, it worked exactly as we believe it should be now, taking into account the current situation of our culture, of our education, etc. So I believe now we have so many generative models and so many process automation models which literally influence people's life, how they feel, how they experience from using of different services. And I think we might benefit from the product which helps to identify these maybe blind spots or some shifted maybe features or strategies which model suggest, and it is highlighted to help us debug it faster and see such things faster. I think it's very important because nowadays there are quite a lot of models which interact with kids, with teenagers, right? And it's really hard, especially when the model is generative and we cannot fully control what answers or recommendations it produces and how correct it is from many different points of view. So I think it would be nice to have a product which make it safer and more correct from the ethical point of view.
Yeah, and Bilge, if you want to add something.
Yeah, I have a different idea here. I mean, I have a different perspective. For me, I think the best open source project to be implemented right now would be a system that can detect the semantic of the data and maybe chunk it according to the semantics. So, I mean, is it a PDF? I mean, what's the documentation? Is it a regulation or is it a book? I mean, so that it can understand the structure of the document and split it accordingly. Do I want to split from the paragraphs or do I want to split from the sentences? Do I want to use the words that can detect, you know what I mean? That can detect the structure of the document and find the best pre-processing approach for that document so that we can further use that document in our retrieval augmented generative systems. But yeah, that would be an amazing idea to build if you want to introduce yourself to the AI world, especially the building with large language models.
Yeah, and also there are a lot of techniques to chunk specific files or specific structures, as you say, PDF or other file structures, etc. But when it comes to all together ingesting data from one side and chunking to the other side, all a big pipeline or something like that, that would be useful for React systems, definitely. And yeah, but I think right now what we are what as a in the generative AI space, we need more a safe, secure, and as Emeli and David mentioned, more ethical ethical open source project that can help us on the or React systems or other generative AI systems that can detect the harmless and remove it or something like that. And yeah, that definitely would be useful. And also, yeah, let's start talking about morely uh Hacktoberfest and what it happened in the 2023. And I know there are a lot of pull requests that merged on the Evidently AI, Haystack, and Union AI. And yeah, maybe you wanna kick it off, David, about what happened on the Hacktoberfest 2023 and how was it in your perspective?
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. yeah, we had a number of contributors. We saw an increase in contributor productivity, meaning the average number of contributions per contributor. So probably there are some factors. We recently migrated to a mono repo, so yeah, that helps in terms of productivity. Honestly, I would like to see Hacktoberfest as something entirely different. This is the third year that Union runs Hacktoberfest for Flyte, and for next year, I'd like to kind of craft this as a mentoring opportunity more than just folks, yeah, smashing uh, some good prestations and then vanishing off. I would like this 30 days to have a kind of sprint mentorship initiative in which we help a small number of motivated contributors who want to really get up to speed on not only probably the code base for the project, but how it's used and for real projects. I know it sounds ambitious because it has a time, it's time demanding, but yeah, to your question, it was a good experience. We were able to chat with folks who were not familiar with Flyte. We had this initiative to also try to incentive non-code contributions. So we also had prizes for folks who covered their learning journey and in a blog post, and that's it without sending a single PR. And that's equally fine. Just having this candid view of someone getting started with the project. So it was good, but I envision this like a great opportunity that we should leverage more.
Yeah, and also I want to ask you about, have you ever faced any kind of a spam PRs or like those kind of a PRs, or like because if you saw in the like Hacker News or something like that, pe- some people are just putting blank PR and like just trying to get approved, and like it's kind of a spamming, and like, yeah.
Yeah, we had a small number of them. Spam in this context was, for example, PRs that conflict with each other, and or that were, yeah, trying to fix a minor thing that it's not necessarily meant to be fixed. It's how it works, and yeah, to me that was a bit new because I've been part of Hacktoberfest campaigns in the past, and yeah, there's this warning on, yeah, we could have some either low quality contributions or totally spam activity. I think that's a risk, and it will be a growing risk for open source projects in the near future because it's now easier than ever for bots to just uh, flood an open source project with spam PRs and take a lot of time. It's a new kind of attack to open source supply chain. Just flood the maintainers with spam requests. But yeah, I would say that it's always something that is present, and we try to stay kind and polite and try to guide these users on why it is considered not relevant now. But yeah, it's a struggle, yes, for sure.
Yeah, and also like I want to add you about the mentorship stuff. Maybe have you ever seen Laura Vanderberg post about like Hacktoberfest mentorship
Hmm.
uh, with Plumber, and I think it was a great initiative in the
Hmm.
inside the Hacktoberfest, like mentoring the open source contributors to get their project done and like those kind of stuff. Were you talking about something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I mean, that's part of the inspiration. of the idea. I think that's how we make sure that we are fully leveraging this Hacktoberfest initiative, this opportunity to, yeah, probably give uh, new open source contributors better tools. Probably if they go away after Hacktoberfest, that's fine. I mean, and that's kind of normal in open source. Contributors come and go, but at
Yeah,
least they should leave with a better preparation to help other communities or for their own careers. So yeah, that's part of the inspiration. Mhm.
yeah, that's great. And I think it's kind of better, like it's a little bit time consuming based on the team capacity, but it's also, I think it's a great initiative and like great idea to like to onboard more contributors into your open source project. And like how was it in the Evidently AI, Emily, about the Hacktoberfest 2023, and have you faced any issues with the spamming stuff? And yeah.
Wow. It was very interesting because this year it was the second year we take part in Hacktoberfest, and previously, well, I would start from the different thing. For me personally, that's a great moment to like clean up our repository because, well, you expect more people to come and start do something. So you really like update all readmes, all instructions on or all how-tos and stuff like this. So I believe it's really helped to like increase the quality of your code and documentation like in a very short period of time. And well, what we did previously, we decided to like create a specific topic for our Hacktoberfest, and we asked the community to contribute to us different drift detection methods. I believe you mentioned that, yeah, it was this exact test, Fisher's one, and we learned so many things related to these different drift detection methods, and it was very inspiring to myself because I always think like whether it's actually very useful, do many people really play around with different drift detection methods, or everyone just use the default one, right? Because, well, it works for many different types of data, etc. And for us, the specific of our product is that we do not have so many data. We cannot really like log or monitor anything because it's a Python library, and we did not have any telemetry at that moment. Now we have because we have service, but for just Python package, we do not have any telemetry. So you don't really understand what your users often use, right? And it's always like a black box. And it was so helpful because people started to share their opinion more extensively. And we even had this kickoff meeting for Hacktoberfest, and I was so surprised of how many people joined. And what we did, I had a code demo where we like created a custom data drift detection methods, and I showed how you can like create a pull request, etc. And they were surprised by how many people found it useful. So that they saw literally that you can like make it in like 30 minutes, and they were like, probably I can also try it. I mean, it was very like inspirational when someone actually see that it can be done, and they do. So I just want to say that it works, and maybe if like have more content like this, more content showing how easy you can create a pull request, I think it's also very nice. And well, spam pull requests, we never had any, surprisingly. I don't know why. Like we had only like we didn't have like that many. We were able to answer in time and check and merge everything in time. I think it was quite good for us. But we have a very small team. We have only like 8 people in our company, so we're really small, and we were very afraid to like receive so much contributions which we won't be able to process. But surprisingly, it was so good because we prepared some good first issues, we prepared some need help issues, and there were some users who volunteered to do specific things. And I believe our Discord community helped a lot because they started to like communicate and discuss what they want to do, and they asked before if we are willing to receive a pull request about integrations or pull requests related to continuous integration. And this was part I really like. So when people start to talk to you, that's awesome because you learn so much things. I really like it. And yeah, this year was much easier because we already have like all needed instructions, contribution guides, etc. We already have some experience from the previous year, and even active users who like started to come even before Hacktoberfest and say to us things like, "I already dedicate some time, so please assign to me some issues." It was so cool to know that people actually waiting for you to create some wishes, and that's just amazing. Maybe there is only one thing I found a little bit challenging to myself is the way how you actually assign issues to different contributors, because sometimes there can be several people starting to work at the same like problem from maybe a little bit different angles, and you might end up with having two or more pull requests for the same issues, and there you can you need to somehow select, and maybe someone just created this pull request faster than the others, but the latest one has like better quality. And like I believe it's very important to at the very beginning create a strategy or sort of rules how you're going to act on this and share it with the community to avoid some maybe miscommunication or bad emotions, because really I believe this Hacktoberfest is the event about the like sharing, about helping, about creating some good vibes, and it's always bad to be the reason of someone feel upset about their work or request. So I think for me it's the most challenging part to make sure that everyone feel better after taking part in this event than before. And I always like I would be happy to discuss this with you guys. Maybe you have some strategies or ideas. How do you manage such things? What we tried to do is to go like by order. So who first created the pull request, if it like meets all expectations, we merge. But I really eager to know what is your experience on this topic.
Yeah, maybe Bilge, you can take this.
Yeah, so
Floor.
for us, the rules were like that. So if you want to work on an issue, you had to write on the issue and say like, okay, I want to work on this one. And someone from our engineering team would reach out to them and say like, okay, you can work on this. Then it would be a nice indicator that, okay, this issue is taken. And as a contributor, I shouldn't like start working on this issue because it's already picked up by somebody else. And I mean, we didn't encounter any problem with that. So I didn't see anybody coming up on top of this conversation and opening a PR for that issue. So probably that was like, it was understood by everybody and everybody was respecting each other. And we also had some issues like two people opening similar PRs because like none of them wrote in the issue. And in that case, we encouraged them to collaborate on one PR, but we like treated them both as the contributors. So we sent them both swags. I mean, this is also another way of like helping the community and encouraging community to contribute to the open source. And if I come to my experience about the Hacktoberfest, it was my first time, and it was the Haystack's first time. So it was like a huge learning process for all of us. So deciding which issues, there are lots of issues, and we need to like make sure that all of these issues are easy to understand. Like the repo is up to date, all the documentation is up to date, but it turned out to be great. Like we got a lot of first-time contributors, and we reached out to some of them, and they all said like they really loved contributing to Haystack, and they want to also start building with Haystack. So this is a great feedback for us as a team. And also we are we are going to release a new version of Haystack, a new major version of Haystack in the upcoming weeks. So I've also seen some people picking up about this 2.0 version, and it was again a great feedback for us, because it indicated that the new API that we are creating is easier for people to understand, and so they can contribute easier. So overall, I can say that it was a great experience for me as personally, and for us all the team. So that was my experience with the Hacktoberfest. Oh, one thing I would do differently in next year is we have Haystack Core, but in addition to Haystack Core, we have other repositories such as where we keep our integrations or tutorials. And we didn't integrate them we didn't participate to Hacktoberfest with these repositories. But in the following years, I'd like to also participate in Hacktoberfest with these repositories, so that people can also contribute to our tutorials and our integrations.
Yeah, that's great. And also, I want to ask you about, like, in the like issue section or in the Hacktoberfest time, there are some people are coming to the issues and just saying that I want to take this issue and work on this issue, but like after 2 weeks there's nothing happening and no PRs created, or like no contributions happening. What are you doing in that, like, specific use case? I'm asking to you, Bilge.
Yeah, I mean, it's an open source community, and in such communities that happens. So you cannot like keep track of the people and like maybe ping them. Okay, you said like you were going to pick up this issue, but you didn't. Like, what's wrong? I mean, you can't do that. It's definitely up to them. But after seeing like 2 weeks and no PR is open, you can like politely say to them like, okay, 2 weeks has passed, but you haven't opened any PR about that. So just FYI, I am opening this issue so that the other people can also pick it up. And if they still don't say anything, I mean, they lost their chances. So anybody else in the community can pick up this issue. I mean, it's all about the respect, right? If you just I mean, after writing that issue that you're gonna pick it up, you have that responsibility right now to open that PR.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And also, I want to like indicate that I got an email from Evidently AI, like, because 1 year passed and it was a, a notification about the tree. And like actually, Evidently AI is when you're creating a pull request for the Hacktoberfest, they're just gifting a tree to you and like taking care of everything. And like I want to ask you like elaborate on that, Emily. Like instead of swag, like gifting a tree, that's a great idea, and like the kindness and like good vibe around. And yeah.
Yeah, I like this idea so much. We should thank Elena, our CEO, for that, because it was her idea to come up with such trees. And we really wanted to support our contributors who did these pull requests. And when we learned the rules of Hacktoberfest, we learned that to earn a t-shirt, it happened previous year, to earn this swag, you need to have at least, if I'm not mistaken, 4 merged pull requests. And well, I believe not everyone can manage to create this 4 pull requests. So at that moment, we decided that we want to thank everyone who even tried to do something. So even if we did not merge the pull request, but we received it, we decided to support people because we believe that maybe if they will see that they are seen, then next year or maybe later, they will be more like brave to come up and do something. So we wanted to do this is in a supportive way, so that even if like maybe your pull request was not merged, you helped to plant a tree, and generally, like as a community, we all won because it's something good. So that was the idea behind this gift. And I think our contributors were really happy because we also had a call after the Hacktoberfest, and we asked people to exchange their experiences, and they came up with the brilliant feedback for us. So now we know how to make it better, and it's also very good to just share this vibe after doing something all together and celebrate ourselves, because we really tried to make it good. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. But if we have good vibes and good intentions, it should be celebrated nowadays. I think it's very important.
Yeah, definitely. And when I got this email, I just felt great, and because it made my day. 1 year ago, evidently I just gifted you a tree. It was so kind. And yeah, and I think all questions are clear, has clear answers in this panel discussion. And maybe lastly but not leastly, if you have any advices for new open source contributors, maybe we can lastly talk about that, as giving more motivations to other people, encouraging them to contribute open source plays. And maybe David, you want to kick it off this encouraging thing?
Yeah, I will say that just believe in yourself, and also, yeah, be sure that you have something that someone needs in open source community. As I said, just keep pushing, keep learning. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and yeah, folks who want to start with open source need to know that it's also a way to stand out in terms of job market, etc. It's more competitive with time, and now with the rise of AI, well, I think humans needs to step up in terms of creativity and all that stuff. So I would say that yeah, I mean, there are plenty of opportunities out there despite your background. Just keep your eyes open, keep asking, keep pushing, and you will find your place for sure.
Yeah, and also I want to emphasize on the job market thing. And I think right now it's people hiring managers and the other people are trying to look at the GitHub, and if the candidate are contributing to open source and those kind of stuff. And for a software developers or data science or any people on working on the tech field, I think GitHub has a great place to start your portfolio and build yourself up for the stand out from the other people when it comes to applying to jobs. Yeah, and let's keep going on with Emeli.
Yeah, sure. I also want to encourage everyone who even thinking about creating some pull request and contribute to any project, do that because of two things. First, I think it's very important to understand that we maintainers, engineers who accept pull requests, who write some reviews, we are very, very same to you guys. And we understand that it's not easy at the very beginning. We understand that we all have some doubts about showing up our code to the community, about the reaction, but there are not much difference between you and us. And if you do something not ideally, there are nothing wrong with that. But also, if you take a look at the history of different open source projects, you will see that we engineers, we fix ourselves bugs in next releases, right? So it happens. It always happens because it's project which is developing. So that's okay to try something. And if something is wrong, I'm very, very sure that most of engineers will respond to you with kindness, right, with respect. So it should be fine, and there is nothing to be worried about or there is nothing to be ashamed about. So just remember that we are all like together in that, and we are not like judging you, right? We always support you. That's the idea behind that. And the second thing is that there are a lot of technologies nowadays, right, presented to the market, and in order to stay relevant, to work using optimal tools, we need to learn constantly, right? Because there are many different ways how you can do and that, this and that for development, right? And sometimes we feel like we not good enough, we are too small, like we are too junior, or maybe we just not have enough experience to work with GitHub, etc. And well, I think even the try matters, right? Even if you just learned how to make a clone of repository, it's already something, right? Now you know how to clone a repo. Maybe you learn how to create a branch, right? Maybe you even like will not create a pull request, but you learn something related to code version systems, right? And it's all experience that will be useful for you. And well, sometimes the process is not like less important than the result. Well, I think it's all matter, and if you feel like you're interested in that, why not try? Why not too? It's a good thing to do, and well, I think you will be at the end. You will be happy that you invested your time into contribution and you learned something. Maybe you even met someone and now feel better about yourself, feel more confident. So my motivation for you is to stay open to the community. Do not be afraid to face any negative things, because well, it's not tolerated, it's not supported by open source community. And just know that if someone like say something wrong about your code, everyone will see that they are wrong, right? Not you. So not be afraid to try.
Yeah, that's great. And how about you, Bilge? Like, what is your encouragement and like motivation speech to new open source contributors?
Yeah, my first advice would be just join the community first. Like join the Discord or the Slack channel of that community and introduce yourself. Probably there is a channel in like already for that, saying like introduce yourself and like see how welcoming the people are in that community, and hang out in the community, maybe attend the events that are organized for the community, get yourself familiar with the product if you are not already, and start building with that. Check out the tutorials and so you get yourself familiar with the product itself. And then you'll see at one point you'll notice a bug, or you just feel that you just want to contribute, and you can even directly write to the community and say like, hey people, I am like using this tool for, I don't know, for a month now, but I really want to contribute. Like, can someone help me? And probably one of the maintainers will reach out to you and say like, okay, do you want to start from this? And if you're stuck at Git commands, like if you can't clone the repo or if you can't open the PR, just ping them again and say like, okay, I've did this, but I don't know how to open a pull request. Can you help me? I mean, if the maintainers are not there, probably someone in the community will help you to open the PR. And so you'll feel the sense of community already and you have your first PR open. So that would be my first advice to the people out there if you want to start contributing to open source.
That's like a solid plan to like start your contribution journey. Definitely. And I think that's it. And if you want to add something or like ask questions to each other, like it's the time before like wrapping up.
Yeah, it was great for me to be with you, Emeli and David.
Yeah, guys, I'm so happy that I had a chance to take part in such a very like motivational podcast, because I feel like there are so many people trying to contribute to the open source, trying to build nice communities, and I think it's very important to show to everyone who tries to contribute that we are really welcoming and we appreciate all their efforts.
Yeah, I learned a lot from Bilge and Emeli. at Mert. So yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, I think this is great, and it's also an example of you, Mert, having curiosity and having taking
Yeah,
the lead to organize this. So it's also a great contribution for the open source community. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Also, like, it was a scary experience for me since it's my first event that I'm organizing, and also at the same time, it's a great learning experience for me. And yeah, that was great conversation from like start to end. And we talked about Hacktoberfest, we talked about open sourcing, and we talked about great stuff in like the values, uh, the motivations behind the contribution and the open source journey, and great advices to new open source contributors. And yeah, that was great experience for me. And like having you all on the stage is great. Yeah.
thank you, Marek,
Thank
for
you.
being such a great host.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think that's a great wrap up, and see you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.